قال المؤلف رحمه الله, said the author, may Allah have mercy upon him, ولا يجري عليه زمان, nor does time run on him or over him. الشرح الزمان عند أهل السنة عبارة عن متجدد يقدر به متجدد آخر. The explanation is that time, according to the people of the prophetic way, refers to something renewed or some event or something renewed or something updated compared to something else renewed or updated. So mutajaddid, jim dal dal, jadid, jadid means new. Jadid means new. If something tajaddada, that means it was new or started. So anything that tajaddada was new or started, and that's an intransitive verb in active voice. And say started means it started. It itself started, not was started. So it began. Mutajaddid. So then it would be described as mutajaddid. So time, according to the people of the prophetic way, is an expression of or refers to mutajaddid, something new or renewed or updated or started. يقدر به متجدد آخر. By this new thing, another or started thing, this event, by this event, another event is compared. Yani, in simple translation, time is the comparison of events. Yani, two events. You compare one event to the other event. So, yani, the space between those two events, that's time. So it could be a second or a minute or half a minute or an hour or a day, etc. وهو عند الفلاسفة عبارة عن مقدار حركة الفلك. And time, according to the philosophers, refers to the measure of the movement of celestial bodies. The measure of movements of celestial bodies. وَاللَّهُ مُنَزَّهٌ عَنْ ذَلِكَ جَمِيعًا. And Allah is exalted from that, no matter which way you define it. And all of these wordings of exalting God from resemblance to the creation, of tanzih, of exaltation, all of these expressions of exaltation that the author gave, يُغْنِي ذِكْرُ بَعْضِهَا عَنْ بَعْضٍ, mentioning some of them relieves from having to mention others. Meaning, all of the statements he gave it's not necessary to mention all of them because there is repetition or redundancy in some of his wordings. So it is possible to mention some of what he mentioned and not all of it, because some of it would cover other parts of it. إِلَّا أَنَّهُ أَرَادَ التَّفْصِيلِ, except that the author wanted to be detailed. وَالتَّوْضِيحِ بِأَبْلَغِ وَجْهِ, and he wanted clarity to the utmost extent, وَأَوْكَدِهِ, and the most hyperbolic or emphasized, the most emphatic extent. Yani, what are these statements? Let's see real quick here. Let me just pull up the metin. Bisurah, I actually have the metin in the back here. So if we just see the text only, up until the point we reached, let's see what the Shaykh means about how some of his expressions clear us from needing to say some of them. And he said the statements of Tanzih. So the statements of Tanzih, they are starting here. Laysa bi'arad, I'll just say in English. He is not a property, nor a body, nor an atom, nor depicted, nor limited, nor numbered or counted, nor partitioned, nor segmented, nor composed, nor ended. Ended. Yani, that's like saying not limited. Nor described with a type, nor does he have a mode, nor is he situated in a place, nor does time run over him. So that's where we got to. Shaykh, he explained the meaning of time, and then he said, these statements of the author in exalting Allah Ta'ala, there is redundancy in them to a degree, and it's not necessary to mention all of them, but the author wanted to be emphatic. قال المؤلف رحمه الله, said the author, may Allah have mercy upon him, ولا يشبهه شيء, nor does anything resemble him. SharH, the explanation. أي لا يماثله شيء, meaning nothing is comparable to him. أما إذا أريد بالمماثلة الاتحاد في الحقيقة. Now, if what's meant by similarity or comparability, if what's meant by that is unity in reality, having the same reality, فظاهر, then that's obvious. Here's a footnote. ظاهر أنه لا يماثله شيء بهذا المعنى, meaning it's obvious that nothing resembles him with this meaning, that there will be something that has his very reality. That's obvious that this is not the case. وأما إذا أريد بها كون الشيئين بحيث يسد أحدهما مسد الآخر. Now, as for if what's meant by this is for there to be two things that are replaceable, that is substitutable, the interchangeable, yani one of them can take the place of the other, one of them can fill the space of the other. أي يصلح كل لما يصلح له الآخر, meaning whatever one of them is good for, the other one is good for. If this is what's meant by nothing is comparable to him, فَإِنَّ شَيْئًا مِنَ الْمَوْجُودَاتِ لَا يَسُدُّ مَسَدَّهُ لَا يَسُدُّ مَسَدَّهُ فِي شَيْءٍ مِنَ الْأَوْصَافِ. Then indeed, there is nothing amongst created things that can replace him in descriptions. لأن أوصافه من العلم والقدرة وغير ذلك أجل وأعلى مما في المخلوقات. Because his descriptions or attributes, whether knowledge or power or other than that, are greater and loftier than what exists in the creations. بحيث لا مناسبة بينهما, such that there is no correlation between them. قال بعضهم, some said, المماثلة إنما تثبت بالاشتراك في جميع الأوصاف. Comparison or similitude is merely confirmed by sharing all qualities. So they're saying two things would not be similar unless they were identical in every way. حتى لو اختلفا في وصف واحد, even if they were different in even one description, انتفت المماثلة, then similitude is inapplicable, is non-existent. وهذا غير سديد, and this is not straight. This is not correct. لأن أهل اللغة لا يمتنعون من القول بأن زيدا مثل عمرو في الفقه. Because the people of the language do not withhold, do not refrain from saying that Zayd is like Amr in fiqh, in jurisprudence. إذا كان يساويه, if he is equal to him in that field. ويسد مسده في ذلك الباب, and he can substitute for him in that issue. وإن كان بينهما مخالفة في وجوه كثيرة, even if there were between the two of them differences in many ways. This is a very important point here, defining exactly what being different means. وَنِسْبَةُ ذَلِكَ إِلَى الْأَشْعَرِيِّ فِيهَا نَظَرٌ, and attributing that to Al-Ash'ari is disputable. Yani, attributing the position that there is no similarity between two things unless they are identical in every way, attributing that to Al-Ash'ari is disputable. فَإِنَّهُ لَا تُحْفَظُ لَهُ عِبَارَةٌ صَرِيحَةٌ فِي ذَلِكَ. Indeed, there is not recorded about him an explicit expression about that, an explicit phrase about that. So he said not explicit. So maybe there's something that some Ash'aris concluded from that Al-Ash'ari himself, his position is that there is no similarity between two things unless they are identical in every way. Shaykh says there's nothing explicit from Al-Ash'ari saying that. Yani, for example, what he's saying is this wording, that two things are not similar unless they're identical in every way, this is not recorded about Al-Ash'ari. So, yani, if you want to attribute this to Al-Ash'ari, try again, give us another expression. What do you have that makes you claim that Al-Ash'ari has this position? فالمتعارف في المخاطبات في اللغة يقضي بجواز إطلاق المثلية من غير اشتراط ذلك. So what is familiar when talking? What is familiar in language when talking dictates that it is permissible to speak of similitude without this condition, without the condition of being identical in every way. كما جاء في الحديث, like what came in a hadith. So remember this hadith for this proof if you need to. الحنطة بالحنطة مثلا بمثل. Wheat for wheat, like for like. This hadith is about riba in sales. So you know if you sell food for food, it has to be exchanged at the same time and have the same measure on both sides. And that's what's meant here. Mithlam bi mithl. Like for like means having the same measure on both sides. And the proof here is that he said mithl. Mithlan bi mithl. Like for like. A fil kale, and this means that they need to be alike in volume in particular. La fi jami' al-awsaf, not in all ways. So look at that. What if even Al-Ash'ari said that? Then we're going to say, but here's a hadith. That's what it means to stick to the proofs. It's not who said something that makes it right. It's what the proof says. This is the difference between the muhaqqiq, the meticulous one, and the perfectionist in religion, in our religion. The mudaqqiq, the exact one, and someone who's less than that. قال الإمام أبو حنيفة رضي الله عنه. Imam Abu Hanifa, may Allah accept from him, said, أَنَّا يُشْبِهُ الْخَالِقُ مَخْلُوقَهُ. How would the Creator resemble his creations? From where would the Creator resemble his creations? That means how? So, yani, that's a denial. He's saying the creator does not resemble his creations in any way, and in fact, that's impossible. He's saying it's impossible that the creator resembles his creations. أي أن الله سبحانه لا يشبه شيئا, meaning that Allah, the glorified, does not resemble anything. ولا يشبهه شيء, and nothing resembles him. أي لا يشارك شيئا من المخلوقات في أخص وصفه ولا فيما هو خاصية له. Meaning, he does not share with any of the creations anything in his in his special attribute, nor in any attribute that is special for him. His special attribute here means the attribute of eternality. أخص وصفه, his most particular attribute, that I translated as his special attribute. Yani, his most particular, أخص, his most particular attribute. What does that mean? It means the attribute that comes to mind first when you think of God, which is beginninglessness, having no beginning. So what's most particular attribute of creations? Having a beginning. He doesn't share this with any of the creations, nor does he share with the creations any attribute of his. وَلَا يُشَارِكُهُ شَيْءٌ مِّنَ الْمَخْلُوقَاتِ فِي أَخَصِّ صِفَاتِهِ. Nor does anything amongst created things share with him its most particular attributes, which is having a beginning. لِوُجُوبِ اجْتِمَاعِ الْمِثْلَيْنِ فِيمَا يَجِبُ وَيَجُوزُ وَيَسْتَحِيلُ. Because it is necessary that two similar things would share in any necessary quality or possible quality or impossible or impossibility. فَلَوْ شَارَكَ تَعَالَى غَيْرَهُ فِي أَخَصِّهِ. So had he, the exalted, shared with someone else that other's most particular attribute, أَوْ شَارَكَهُ غَيْرُهُ فِي أَخَصِّهِ, or someone else shared with him in his most particular attribute, لَلَزِمَ التَّسَاوِي فِي الْقِدَمِ وَالْحُدُوثِ, then it would be binding that being eternal and being created would be the same. I think that's clear. If you have any question, go ahead and ask. قال الفقيه المؤرخ المتكلم ابن المعلم القرشي ما نصه. The jurist and the historian and the theologian Ibn al-Muallim the Qurashi said, quote, قال الكشيري في عقيدته. Al-Kushayri said in his creedal document, قال شيوخ هذه الطريقة. The sheikhs of this way said, على ما يدل عليه متفرقات كلامهم ومجموعاتها ومصنفاتهم في التوحيد. إن الحق سبحانه موجد قديم واحد حليم قادر عليم ماجد رحيم مريد سميع مجيد رفيع متكلم بصير متكبر قدير حي باق أحد صمد وإنه عالم بعلم قادر بقدرة مريد بإرادة سميع بسمع بصير ببصر متكلم بكلام حي بحياة باق ببقاء باق ببقاء. So the jurist and the historian and the theologian Ibn al-Muallim al-Qurashi, he said, Al-Qushayri said in his creedal document, the sheikhs of this way say, according to what their scattered sayings amount to, yani, what this one said here and this one said there and this one said there, all those scattered statements, if you put them together, it amounts to something. This is what we're going to say that they said. And also in their gathered statements and in their offerings in monotheism, they said, Inna al-haqqa subhanahu mujid. Indeed, al-haq, the true God, glorified, is existence creator. And according to a copy, mawjud means existence. So either he said mujid or mawjud. He is mujid, yani existence creator. Qadim, eternal. Wahid, unique. Halim, not punishing swiftly. Qadir, powerful. Alim, very knowledgeable. Majid, noble, that means perfect. According to copy, Qahir, yani conquering. Rahim, merciful. Murid, willing or willer. Sami', hearer. Majid, noble, very noble. Rafi', majestic. Mutakallim, speaker. Basir, seer. Mutakabbir, great. Qadir, very powerful. Hayy, living. Baq, everlasting. Ahad, individual. Samad, the independent master needed by all. Wa innahu alimun bi'ilm, and indeed he is a knower by knowledge. Qadirun bi qudrah, powerful by power. Muridun bi iradah, a willer by will. Sami'un bi sam', a hearer by hearing. Basirun bi basar, seer by seeing or by sight. Seer by sight. Mutakallimun bi kalam, a speaker by speech. Hayyun bi hayah, alive by life. Baqin bi baqa, everlasting by everlastingness. Now you know why he said that, why he mentioned the descriptive name and the attribute. ثم قال فيها, and then Ibn al-Muallim cites Al-Qushayri that he said in that creedal document, وَإِنَّهُ أَحَدِيُّ الذَّاتِ, and indeed he is individual in the self. لا يشبهه شيئا من المصنوعات, not resembling anything of made beings. وَلَا يُشْبِهُهُ شَيْءٌ مِّنَ الْمَخْلُوقَاتِ, and nothing of created beings resembles him. لَيْسَ بِجِسْم, he is not at all a body. وَلَا جَوْهَرٌ, nor an atom. وَلَا عَرَض, nor a property. وَلَا صِفَاتُهُ أَعْرَاض, nor are his attributes properties. وَلَا يُتَصَوَّرُ فِي الْأَوْهَامِ, and he is not depicted in delusions. وَلَا يَتَقَدَّرُ فِي الْعُقُولِ, and he is not measured in the intellects. وَلَا لَهُ جِهَةٌ وَلَا مَكَانٌ, and he does not have a direction nor a place. Intaha. End quote. Here recently I had a back and forth with a Wahhabi. He was saying one of those old Wahhabi lies about the Ash'aris taking after Aristotle. And he made a comment about talk about the atoms from Aristotle. So I told him, just because the Muslims talked about atoms doesn't mean they took it from Aristotle. Other people talked about atoms too. And I told him, only a moron wouldn't believe in atoms. Don't be a moron. So I think that's a good argument for anyone. Yani, what if Wahhabi brought up to you, you follow Aristotle, you talk about the atoms with such and such, so you might say, it might be your inclination to argue with him that we don't follow Aristotle. But probably you might want to say, wait a minute, you deny atoms? So then what's he going to say? So if he says, yeah, tell him, you're stupid. He says, no, I don't deny atoms. He say, what's your problem then? And if he says, well, you took it from Aristotle, then you might say, no, he didn't. That's a lie. And I challenged him. I told him, show your document. Where did we take anything from Aristotle? And he never showed anything, but he made another comment. So I told him, you still didn't show me where we took something from Aristotle. So he made another comment. Told him, you still didn't show me where you took something from Aristotle. So like this, those guys are weaklings. قال المؤلف رحمه الله, said the author, may Allah have mercy upon him, ولا يخرج عن علمه وقدرته شيء, and nothing is outside of his knowledge or his power. الشرح أنه لا يخرج عن علم الله ولا عن قدرته شيء. The explanation is that nothing escapes or is outside of the knowledge of God nor his power. لأن الجهل بالبعض أو العجز عن البعض نقص, because ignorance about something or weakness concerning something is deficiency. وافتقار إلى مخصص, and it is needing a specifier, because if he was weak over one thing but not another thing, then what specified him? And if he knew one thing but he was ignorant about something else, what specified him? We are the ones who need specifiers. How's one person, he's knowledgeable about computers, another person he's not? Because the creator has specified this one with the knowledge he has and his ignorance about other things. And he specified that other one with the knowledge he has and his ignorance about other things. So ignorance about anything, one thing at all, and being weak over anything at all is a deficiency, and it is neediness. Being in need of a specifier. والنصوص القاطعة ناطقة بعموم العلم وشمول القدرة. And the definitive texts, yani the explicit authentic texts, pronounce the generality of God's knowledge and the inclusiveness of his power. قال تعالى, said the exalted, وهو بكل شيء عليم, and he is about everything very knowledgeable. That's 29th ayah of Surah Al-Baqarah. وقال تعالى, and the exalted said, وهو على كل شيء قدير, and he is over anything possible, very powerful. 120th ayah of Surah Al-Ma'idah. هذا الدليل من حيث السمع. This is the evidence, this is the documentary evidence about the issue. أما الدليل من حيث العقل. Now concerning the intellectual evidence, فَهُوَ أَن يُقَالْ, it is that it be said, لَوْ كَانَ يَجْهَلُ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى بَعْضَ الْأَشْيَاءِ, had God Almighty been ignorant about some things, أَوْ يَعْجِزُ عَنْ بَعْضِ الْأَشْيَاءِ, or had he been weak concerning some things, لَكَانَ ذَلِكَ نَقْصًا فِي حَقِّهِ, then that would be deficiency concerning him. وَالنَّقْصُ مُسْتَحِيلٌ عَلَيْهِ. Now, we're not going to stop there. We could stop here. We could say that that would be deficiency for him and stop there. But the habit of the Muslim scholars not to leave what's understood unstated when they give the argument, and rather to say all of it until the end. So he continued, وَالنَّقْصُ مُسْتَحِيلٌ عَلَيْهِ, and deficiency is impossible for him. ثُمَّ إِنَّ ذَلِكَ يُوجِبُ الْإِفْتِقَارَ إِلَى مُخَصِّصٍ. Furthermore, that dictates requiring a specifier, a particularizer. وَاللَّهُ مُنَزَّهٌ عَنِ الْإِحْتِجَاجِ إِلَى مُخَصِّصٍ. And Allah has exalted from needing a specifier. لِأَنَّهُ هُوَ مُخَصِّصُ الْأَشْيَاءِ بِمَا عَلَيْهَا, because he is the one who specified things as they are. فَكَيْفَ يَكُونُ لَهُ مُخَصِّصٌ يُخَصِّصُهُ بِالْقُدْرَةِ عَلَى بَعْضِ الْمُمْكِنَاتِ دُونَ بَعْضٍ. So how would he have a specifier specifying him with power over some possibilities and not others? وَبِالْعِلْمِ بِبَعْضِ الْأَشْيَاءِ دُونَ بَعْضٍ, and specifying him with knowledge of some things and not others. هذا مستحيل, this is impossible. فلذلك يجب أن يكون علمه شاملا لكل شيء. For that reason, it is necessary that his knowledge would be inclusive of everything. وقدرته شاملة لكل شيء, and that his power would be inclusive of everything. تنبيه. Notice, إذا قلنا, when we say علم الله متعلق بكل شيء, God's knowledge pertains to everything. يدخل فيه الواجب العقلي والجائز العقلي والمستحيل العقلي. That includes the intellectually necessary, the intellectually possible, and the intellectually impossible. أما قول الله وهو على كل شيء قدير. And as for God's saying, and he is over anything possible, very powerful, فالمعنى أنه على كل ممكن عقلي قدير. The meaning is, like what I already said in my translation for you, he is over every intellectual possibility, over everything possible. It's very powerful. So if I take that out of my translation and just translate the words of the ayah only, وَهُوَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ, and he is over everything powerful. Doesn't say possible, just says over everything. I added in my translation, everything possible. So then the Shaykh said what I had already put into the translation. This means that he is very powerful over everything that's intellectually possible. لأن متعلق القدرات هو الممكن العقلي, because what is related to power, what is related to God's power is what is possible intellectually. ليس الواجب العقلي, not what is necessary intellectually. والمستحيل العقلي, nor impossible intellectually. So this is a lesson you took before, you know. The necessity, the intellectual necessity would not be under God's power, because the intellectual necessity is God himself. He is the one that the mind says must exist. And he is not under his own power. That would mean he created himself. So the necessary intellectually doesn't pertain to God's power. That would mean he created himself if it did. And the impossible intellectually doesn't pertain to God's power, because impossible by definition is something that doesn't even happen. So how would something that doesn't even happen be created? It wouldn't pertain to God's power, because God's power, its function is creating. This is Ash'ari talk I'm talking here now. فَهَذَانِ لَا يَدْخُلَانِ فِي قَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى. So these two, the intellectually necessary and the intellectually impossible, are not included in the saying of God Almighty, وَهُوَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. And he is over everything very powerful. لِأَنَّهُ لَوْ تَعَلَّقَتِ الْقُدْرَةُ بِالْوَاجِبِ الْعَقْلِيِّ. Because had God's power been related to the intellectually necessary, لَكَانَ الْأَزَلِيُّ حَادِثًا. That would mean that the eternal one is created. لكن لا يعد ذلك عجزا من الله تعالى عن هذين. However, our saying that his power does not pertain to these two, the necessary and to the impossible, this is not considered weakness for God from these two. فَلَا يُقَالُ عَاجِزٌ عَنْهُمَا. So it's not said that he is weak or unable or crippled from. It is not said he is crippled from the necessary and the impossible. كَمَا لَا يُقَالُ قَادِرٌ عَلَيْهِمَا. Just like it's also not said he has power over them. Yeah, and we don't say he has power over them, but he doesn't create them. We don't say he has power over them, but we don't say he is disabled from them. Rather, what we say is his power doesn't pertain to them. Or in another word, they are irrelevant to his power. They are irrelevant to his power. The intellectually necessary is irrelevant to God's power, because the intellectually necessary refers to God himself. So he didn't create himself. So it's irrelevant to his power. He is irrelevant to his own power, meaning he didn't create himself. And the impossible is not something that even happens so that it would be created. It wouldn't be created and then happen. So it's also irrelevant to his power. لأن الواجب العقلي لا يقبل العدم. Because the intellectually necessary doesn't accept non-existence. It must exist, and existence is the only thing confirmed by the mind for it. So to say that it would be subject to power would imply that it could be non-existent. وَالْمُسْتَحِيلَ الْعَقْلِي لَا يَقْبَلُ الْوُجُودِ. And the intellectually impossible doesn't accept existence. So it wouldn't be said that his power is relevant to it. That would imply that it could happen. قال المؤلف رحمه الله, said the author, may Allah have mercy upon him. He said, would it be appropriate here to define Allah's attribute of power? It would be appropriate to define that here. And his attribute of power is his attribute by which he brings the non-existent, by which he raises existing things from nothingness. His power is his attribute by which he raises existent things from nothingness. So existent from nothingness excludes the necessary because the necessary is only existent and would never be nothing. And it excludes the impossible because the impossible would never be something. قال المؤلف رحمه الله آمين وفيكم. Said the author, may Allah have mercy upon him, وَلَهُ صِفَاتٌ أَزَلِيَّةٌ قَائِمَةٌ بِذَاتِهِ. And he has attributes, eternal, existing by his self, existing by his being. Qa'ima means existing. Because qa'ima here means confirmed, and confirmed means existing. SharH, the explanation. أن الله تعالى له صفات أزلية. The explanation is that God Almighty has eternal attributes. قائمة بذاته. Eternal attributes existing by his being. ولا يقال حالة بذاته. And it's not said that they dwell in his self. ولا حال, or it is not said they dwell by his being. ولا حالة في ذاته. Nor is it said that they dwell in his self. ولا إنها بعض ذاته. Nor that they are part of his self. بل نقول صفات قائمة بذاته. Rather we say attributes that exist by his being. Usually our sheikhs would say attributes confirmed for his self, which that's fine and that works. Saying it that way is translating the meaning of the Arabic statement. So the Arabic statement is qa'imatun bidhatihi. And the meaning of qa'imatun bidhatihi is thabita, confirmed, lahu, for his self. So our teachers always said to us, his attributes are confirmed for his self. That's fine. But I just wanted to translate the words themselves. Qa'ima. Qa'ima here means mawjuda, existent, bidhatihi, by his being. Wa ma'na qa'imatun bidhatihi. And the meaning of existent by his being, annaha thabitatun lah, which is what I just told you, that they are confirmed for him. La tanfakku anhu. They don't separate from him. كما ينفك الغير عن الغير, like something could separate from something else. They don't separate from him like something could separate from something else. Yani, that means he with his attributes are not considered, he is not considered something and his attributes is something else so that they could be separate. وَلَيْسَ مَعْنَا قَوْلِنَا قَائِمَةٌ بِذَاتِهِ مُتَّصِلَةً بِذَاتِهِ. And our saying that they exist by his being does not mean that they are connected to his self. فَيَجِبُ اجْتِنَابُ التَّعْبِيرِ بِأَنَّ صِفَاتِ اللَّهِ مُتَّصِلَةٌ بِذَاتِهِ. So it is necessary to avoid wording, the wording that the attributes of God are connected to his self. What if somebody said that? You're going to deem him as a kafir. Here's a perfect place where we can cite the Shaykh when he said, you don't have to rush to deem a person a kafir, because these cases are delicate and sometimes a person doesn't know the best way to express them. Even a jurist, if he's not an expert theologian, might not know the best way to talk about matters of theology, yani Aqidah, the creed. The jurist might not talk about the creed with the best words. So how about the layman? And that's just like how the jurist might talk about hadiths. He doesn't talk about hadiths like the hadith scholars. If he's not an expert in the hadith terminology, then he wouldn't be able to talk about hadiths like the hadith scholars. And if he's not an expert in grammar, he wouldn't be able to talk about the grammar like the grammarians. So if someone is not an expert in theology, he wouldn't know probably the best way to talk about many things. Like one brother, he makes nice videos about, a lot of times about politics. Sometimes he talks about religion. And what he wants to say is right, but how he's saying it sometimes is weak, because he doesn't have the expertise in the theology so that he would have stronger expressions. So keep in mind the status of this speaker. And you don't have to rush just because he said the words, even if it's wrong meaning. He might not really know what to say, how to say it. And he doesn't know even that he doesn't know the best way to say it. So they're not going to call him a kafir. You're going to teach him. Say, no, don't say it this way, because that means this. So Shaykh says, فَيَجِبُ اجْتِنَابُ التَّعْبِيرِ بِأَنَّ صِفَاتِ اللَّهِ مُتَّصِلَةٌ بِذَاتِهِ. So it is necessary to avoid the phrase that the attributes of God are connected to his self. أو حالة في ذاته, or dwelling in his self. Oh, and you call هي بعض ذاته, or that it be said that they are part of his self. فنقول علمه تعالى صفة أزلية أبدية. So we say, God's knowledge, exalted is he, is an eternal everlasting attribute of his. قائمة بذاته, existing by his being. وقدرته صفة أزلية قائمة بذاته. And his power is an eternal attribute existing by his being. يتأتى بها الإيجاد والإعدام. By it, creating existence and reducing to non-existence are achieved. وإرادته صفة قديمة قائمة بذاته. So when I said they are achieved, that's my translation for يتأتى بها. You would say هذا غير متأت. This means this is something unachievable. وإرادته صفة قديمة قائمة بذاته. And his will is an attribute, eternal, existing by his being. يخصص بها الممكنات ببعض ما يجوز عليها بدل بعض. By it, he specifies the possibilities with some of what is possible for them over other things that are possible for them. Yani, in a condensed statement, it means by his will, he makes the possibilities one way or another. Some way or another. خصص الجسم الأبيض بالبياض دون السواد. He particularizes a white body with whiteness instead of blackness. وخصص القصير بالقصر دون الطول. And he specifies the short with shortness instead of tallness. وخصص الطويل بالطول دون القصر. And he specifies the tall with tallness instead of shortness. وَكَانَ جَائِزًا فِي الْعَقْلِ أَن نَكُونَ طِوَالًا. It was possible in the mind that we would be as tall as Adam. كما كان آدم كما كان آدم 60 ذراعا. In the mind, it is possible that we would be tall like Adam was, 60 cubits tall, 90 feet tall. Yani like 44 kilometers or something like that. فخصصنا الله تعالى بهذا الطول الذي نحن عليه. And so Allah particularized us with this height that we have. Exalted is He. وَكَانَ جَائِزًا أَن نَكُونَ أَطْوَلَ مِنْهُ. And it was possible intellectually that we would be taller than that. وَقَدْ قِيلَ. And it was said, إِنَّ قَوْمَ عَادٍ كَانَ أَحَدُهُمْ طُولُهُ أَلْفَ ذِرَاعٍ. It was said that the people of Ad, one of them would be 1,000 cubits tall. وَقِيلَ مِئَةَ ذِرَاعٍ. And it was said 100 cubits tall. وَقِيلَ غَيْرَ ذَلِكَ. And other than that was said. فَكَانَ فِي الْعَقْلِ جَائِزًا أَن نَكُونَ مِثْلَ أُولَئِكَ. In the mind, it's possible that we could be like them. أو أطول منهم. Or even taller than them. فالله تعالى خصنا بهذا المقدار وهذا التخصيص. فالله تعالى خصنا بهذا المقدار. And so Allah, exalted is He, specified us with this measure. وهذا التخصيص. And with this specification, وهذا التخصيص هو المشيئة. And this specifying, it is the will. وهو الإرادة. The will, which is called in Arabic mashi'a, and it's called irada. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. And Allah knows best. We'll stop there. Any question? Alhamdulillah. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik. أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.